This is a reading comprehension passage with a set of 4 questions. This passage talks essentially about United Nations and its workings. Let's look at our first question. Question 1 says, which of the following best describes the role that was envisioned for the UN when it was first created? To answer this question, let's go back to para 1. Para 1 says, 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights empowered the UN to act as custodian for the protection of human rights. Discrimination against women, children's rights, torture, missing person, and arbitrary detention that was occurring in many countries. Moreover, the UN and its specialized agencies are engaged in enhancing all aspects of human life, including education, health, poverty reduction, and the rights of women and children, and climate change. Let's look at our options. Option A says to defend minority groups and weak by ensuring the protection of human rights and eradication of discrimination against weakened group. Although this is true, this is only one part of what UN was really created for. So this is a very limited answer. We'll not take option A as the correct answer. Option B says to save humanity from scourge of war, protect human rights, maintain international peace and security, uphold international law, enhance quality of life. This talks about all the aspects that UN was created for and are also stated in para 1. So B can be the correct answer to this question. Option C says to improve the quality of life of all human beings through intervention on areas like education, poverty, climate. That talks about intervention on areas like education, poverty, climate, but does not really mention the eradication of discrimination and exploitation, etc. And hence this is also a limited answer. Option D says to resolve international conflicts in order to save lives and avert war and to ensure that liberation of countries under colonial rule. Again, this talks about only one aspect of why human rights and discrimination and exploitation are part of United Nations, and this talks about only one part of humans working again, and hence is a limited answer. The correct answer to this question will become option B. Next question says, which of the following could be the most logical reason of why the author views both the pros and cons of the United Nations? Now, author has written this passage in a very positive light, wherein although he has talked about limitations of United Nations, he has not really belittled or held United Nations in contempt. The limitations of United Nations have been discussed to show how United Nations effectiveness is being limited by these areas and not to criticize United Nations. So our options will have to be written in the same format. Let's look at option A. Option A says viewing both sides would help to understand the aspect that UN should highlight about its functioning to international community. The question is not really about what UN should do, but or how UN should highlight its functioning to the international community, but about effectiveness of UN in general. So A will be eliminated. B says viewing both sides would help understand the weaknesses that UN would work on the future. Although the limitations of UN are discussed, but the focus of the passage is not the weaknesses of UN, but about how to make it more effective. So B will again not be the answer. C says viewing both sides would help maintain a fair and objective analysis of UN and its functioning. Although the objective of this passage can be to do a fair analysis of UN, but it is also to highlight how UN can do better. So the correct answer will become option D, which says that ways in which UN can be made more effective in future. Correct answer will be option D. Next question says, based on the information in the passage, which the following is not a logical criticism that can be leveled at the United Nations? To answer this question, let's go back to para 4. It says the UN is not without shortcomings. In 1970, when the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) was signed by 190 nations, all 5 superpowers own nuclear weapons. Later, despite the NPT and partial test ban treaty, several countries, North Korea, Israel, Pakistan, India, developed nuclear weapons. This revealed the UN's inability to enforce regulations on offending nations. Along similar lines, the UN's International Court of Justice has resolved major international disputes, but the UN's veto power have limited its effectiveness at critical times. The International Criminal Court, established in 2002, has prosecuted several war criminals, but it has been criticized for prosecuting only Asian leaders, while Western powers too have committed war crimes. Now let's look at our options. Option A says, while the International Court of Justice has resolved major international dispute, the UN has not been as effective as it should have been. This is mentioned in the 4th paragraph, so this can be eliminated as the correct answer. Option B says the UN has prosecuted several war criminals, but it has not credited with being just in the scope of its prosecution. This is again true because the paragraph mentions that it has primarily prosecuted the Asian leaders and the Western nations have also committed war crimes. So B can also not be the answer. C says the UN has not been able to maintain the status quo in the diplomatic relations within the international community. This is not mentioned and hence can be the answer to this question. Option D says the UN has not been assertive enough to enforce regulations on offending nations. This again is correct according to fourth paragraph. Hence the correct answer to this question will become option C. Let's look at the next question. What does the following quote indicate? UN was not created to take mankind to heaven, but to save humanity from hell. A close analysis of this quote will tell us that the creation of United Nations was done in order to uplift mankind and the civilizations where our conflicts can be resolved in a more peaceful and humane manner. War can be avoided and loss of life, exploitation and discrimination is also avoided. Let's look at our options. Option A says the UN should resolve issues and ensure that problems do not arise in scope of responsibility that it has been entrusted with. This is correct because essentially UN's task is to resolve issues without war and resolve issues in a peaceful manner. Option B says UN was not created to help in the progress of mankind or to establish a utopian state. This will become incorrect because it was created to help in the progress of mankind. And this is again not a very clear reflection of what the quote is. Option C says UN does not have a broad role in international affairs but it still fails to perform that role in full. The quote does not actually refer to international affairs and hence can be kept aside. Option D says that international community is faced with various problems that the UN should help resolve. Although UN is taking part in international relations, the international community is faced with various problems. Not all of these might actually refer to United Nations and not in all of these United Nations might be able to help. So option D will also get eliminated. The correct answer to this question will become option A.